All right, we're doing lesson 6. This is the last one in this chapter. We are analyzing data distributions, which sounds really scary, but it's not. All right, so we have some new vocabulary to go through first. The first one is bivariate data, and that is data that measures two variables. Okay, so bi is a thing for two, so two variables. An example of that is a scatter plot, as you see here. Okay, it measures time and distance, so that is a bivariate data example. Okay, univariate data is data that measures one variable. Okay, so uno kind of starts at that right there, one. An example of that is a box plot, test scores. That's all you're measuring in a box plot. It's just one thing of test scores. So that's why that is a univariate data. Okay, a gap is just what it sounds. It is where there are no data values. There's a gap in the data. So if you look down at this one, this is a distribution. It's showing all the different values. Usually there's numbers here, but I was lazy. So there's a gap right here at this spot. That's the only spot that doesn't have any data. All right, a peak. Sorry, I'm getting my notes out here. Is the most frequently occurring value. What? Oh my, or interval of value. All right, so that is really simple, even though it sounds complicated. An example of a peak is just right here. These all have x's. This is the one that has the most. It has 4 x's, so that is our peak there. Promise I don't have the corona. All right, I don't know. Bothers me. Okay, symmetric, you guys have heard this in art class. It's when both sides of the data looks even. When both sides of the data looks even. So if you look at these two graphs right here, you can see that the first one here, it's definitely symmetric. The left side looks just like the right side. Whereas here it's uneven because the right side is a lot taller than the left side. All right. So we do have a little bit of old vocabulary to go over. If you guys remember an outlier, that is data that doesn't seem to match the rest of the data. An example of that would be this. You have all of your x's over here, so that one would be the outlier because it does not match the rest of it. All right, and then a cluster is when data values are grouped together. So an example of that would be here. You got some over here, but the majority are all clustered together right here. So that would be considered a cluster. All right, so here we go. Example 1. The graph shows the weights of adult cats. Identify any symmetry, clusters, gaps, peaks, or outliers in the distribution. So if you look at this, we have to do 5 different answers pretty much. So symmetry, is this symmetric? There's no symmetry because we have these two right here. Otherwise, it might be symmetric, but these two kind of throw it off. Do we have any clusters? I would say the clusters are found at 7 through 12. That's where the majority of the data is, right here, 7 through 12. Gaps, we have a gap at 13 because there's no value right there at 13. Peaks, what's your highest peak? 10. And then do we have any outliers? I mean, if 14 and 15, they're not too far away from 12, so I would say no outliers. All right, univariate, bivariate data. This is measuring 2 things. So it would be bivariate. We're measuring number of cats and weight. All right, so that is that example.